Hi, everybody. So, this is recovery mode. This is pushing boundaries. My name's Robert Knowles. I am your face for everything. So, we're talking about recovery mode today. This is what we're all talking about. We're all here for pushboundconsulting.com. Click on it, get your free ebook, 158-page document, book, whatever you want to call it, that discusses what recovery should be looking like in post COVID for the fall. That's the one thing that everyone's talking about right now. I have Chapter 6 contributor Rebecca Coda with me, live in sunny Louisiana. So how hot is it right now, Rebecca? How hot is it right now in the back?
I didn't look at that app, but it's probably right around 75-ish. It's perfect.
We've already Chicago. We already hit 90, so we're already we're already hitting 90 and everything else. So and that's the thing is, like, I had to look at the clock, because if I didn't, Rebecca and I would have just been talking, and we would have just blown through the time and be like, everyone's like, what happened? It's like, oh, I didn't hit play. So I didn't hit go live. So I'm just like, oops. So just as a normal thing, guys, obviously, if you want to throw comments in the comment section, if something comes through, we can answer it. But basically, we're going to go to chapter 6 and Rebecca's came up with what her is in general, education in general, just going forwards. So, Rebecca, you have one of probably the most unique experiences among all of us right now, because you were able to move states during a pandemic. How did that go? I mean, I'm not going to say where you moved from, but you moved entire states during a pandemic. That is a unique experience right now. So tell everybody how that came about.
I call it the trifecta, because we had the pandemic, we had the riots, and then a big hurricane or a tropical storm was hitting at the same time. So it was one of those things that it was already set in motion and you can't really undo it. But my husband was relocated from Arkansas to Louisiana, and he had been living down in New Orleans for a bit, and we just decided long distance was too tough. Even though I loved it there in Cabot, it was just time for our family to make a change. And like I said, it was all set in motion, so there was no undoing it.
No, but how was the actual transition, like moving during a pandemic, like the actual process to it? Was it anything unique or different, or was it just everyday business?
It was really everyday business. The people down here have been fantastic. I mean, other than just the inconveniences that we've all experienced of rest stops and drive-throughs and those type of things that have become our new norm. The people have been fantastic here, and it's been a joy.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Excellent. All right. So chapter 6. So what kind of, we're talking about starting points. Like, when we start recovery mode and everything else, what should we embrace as a starting point going into your chapter? And like, what should we start with when we start recovery mode and we start thinking about going back to school and thinking about preparing for the fall? What's your take on this with your chapter in mind?
Honestly, really where I hear everyone talking is just that basis of relationships. Like, no matter what, we have to start with those check-ins. I mean, just like you did with me just now, everybody has been affected in a completely different way. I mean, we all have different backgrounds. We all have different life experiences. We all have different family situations. And I think for the educator in particular, it has been most difficult because it's actually required more time at home doing the whole telepresence thing, and also managing a family in the background as well. So it's a lot to juggle. And, we talk social emotional, but really it is very, very legit in the sense of we almost need to break off one-on-one with our people too. I mean, yes, we're going to do a group check-in, but we need to take that extra minute to walk down the hall side by side and say, hey, how are you really? As our starting point. And I think our biggest belief is that really educators are good people. It's just a good group of people just trying to do the right thing, trying to make a difference in the world, trying to educate kids, make an impact. And And so we've all got to embrace our humanness together, and position shouldn't matter. We should all be shoulder to shoulder as humans, as educators, as leaders, all working together, because it's the only way it's going to work moving forward.
Definitely. So I just want to point out real quick, we have a comment. Miss Bethany Hill says she misses you already.
Oh, I miss her already too.
So I wanted to throw that out there. So when we talk about relationships and everything else, I mean, there's definitely, and we were kind of discussing it a little bit before we went on the air, negative vibes in education and neutral responses. I mean, how do we want to attack this? How do we want to address this to make sure, everyone is heard, everyone is listened to, and everyone is, what would be your opinion?
It really is tough, because I think we've almost seen a progression since, the spring of school and that pandemic starting. We really faced a lot of adversity with that. But now, we look at just the genuine disarray of our world right now, and everybody's striving for equity. Everybody's striving for a voice. As educators, we're striving for unity, and probably our biggest fear is launching back to school. How do we start that initial conversation as adults so that we can be strong to initialize those conversations with our kids? Because again, everybody's coming from a different perspective. So, I mean, just some simple things like establishing a social contract. Everybody's point of view matters. It does. And we may even more distinctly disagree with somebody else.
You still with me, Rebecca?
I'm still there.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm like, oh, where'd you go?
But we need to just establish some common ground on how we talk to each other, and that it's okay to disagree, even on, issues that we're seeing in the news right now. We don't all have to have the same point of view, but we all do have to agree that we are all humans, that we are living on the same planet in the same world. And as educators, our mission hasn't changed. Our mission is still to serve kids, grow kids into, viable community members that are going to be lifelong learners. And so we need to focus on what unites us, even though, there's going to be some electrically charged emotions that arrive at school, both in adults and kids. So we just need to kind of work through that. I do think a social contract is the best place to start, but it's going to be a lot of side-by-side one-on-one conversations too, to rebuild trust.
Excellent. So looking at your chapter and, in preparing for this today, talking about what is the successful transition back into schooling other than social contracts and relationships? I mean, is there anything else that this is the big question. Everyone's asking this,
Sure.
It's like, what is back to school going to look like? Oh my God, are we all going to wear masks and shields and have dividers and everything? I mean, what is that successful transition going back into school going to look like on top of the relationships that we're going to be forming with people?
Well, that's going to be state to state. I know that there was already a re-entry plan that was created in Arkansas. In fact, you can go to the Department of Education website and it's phenomenal. The problem is that things are changing week to week, and rightly so, because different states are in different states of a progression as far as PPE gear and what you have to do with all of those provisions. So those things are going to impact us, and we're just going to have to be super, super flexible and just willing to do whatever it takes for those pieces to work. But I saw like a silly email the other day, like you can't stop a kid from running up and hugging you. You can't stop a kid from wiping his nose on his shirt. Like those things are just going to end up happening, and they're not things that we can prevent. We can even talk about it before it happens, and it's still going to happen because when you're working with kids, you've got that human factor in person. So buses are going to be tough. Cafeteria is going to be tough. Everything's going to take a little bit longer. And so I think that we just have to be willing to trust our leaders more than we've ever trusted them. So, if we're a teacher, we've got to just trust that our principals know more than we know, and we've got to just rely on their guidance. No questions asked in some cases, unless it's something ethical. And same thing with our superintendents and our state leaders. They have access to a bigger perspective and more information, and so we just have to trust whatever plan that they roll out. We need to abide by it as closely as possible. We're going to stick to our teacher stuff where we are, socially and emotionally connecting. We're going to do our very best to deeply teach those essential standards. But we're talking that whole medical and physical safety piece. We've just got to follow our leaders. We have to.
Definitely. So I mean, yeah, and what you're talking about with stages of where we're at, I don't know where Louisiana is, but we're in like phase 3 going into phase 4.
Oh wow.
And then we're talking about like when everyone's asking like phase 5, when's phase 5 going to happen? It's like, well, if it's going to be a vaccine or no vaccine, or what's the whole process. So there's always questions all across the board.
Yeah.
Looking at your chapter and going through, we're talking about relationships with the teachers and everything else, and with higher ups and with superintendents and leadership. What about the kids? Like how would you prepare students for this unknown time coming into the fall?
Honestly, it's going to be by saying we don't have all the answers. It's going to be it's probably going to be asking just very general questions to get them even comfortable with where they're at. So I do think starting with teacher vulnerability and really talking about our own feelings and our own experiences through this process, and anything that may give us our own fear or our own concern, but then also lacing that with, but here are all the good things that I've experienced that have come out of this. Because as tragic as all of this is, I've experienced a lot of positives. I mean, people are viewing our profession with such high regard now, compared to where they did before. The home and family communication is phenomenal. Teacher awakening to what families go through at home. So I've seen almost more good, and really an evolution and a propelling forward from it than negative. Although it's been tough on teachers. It's been a lot. So I don't even know if I answered your question.
No, just how we prepare students.
Yeah, so just preparing students, again, it's going to be your social contract. It's going to be creating a pathway for conversation. It's going to be finding what their biggest fears are, and just let's list them out. And if they have them, let's create a protocol. Let's create a plan. Let's create a pathway so that they feel safe physically, with the medical response and health. They feel safe emotionally, because we are not going to be able to teach them standards until they do feel safe. And that's that whole Maslow before Bloom's. Like, we've got to make sure that they have an avenue for voice, and that they have an avenue to where they truly feel safe. And the only way to do that is going to be to ask, chart some things out, and to come up with a plan together.
Yeah, and what you were saying before with teachers and everything, and that awakening, and I've mentioned this on previous shows, is that I think this whole pandemic pretty much showed that, we are needed more than ever. I mean, to the point, obviously there are little situations of financial difficulty or family difficulty, but that structure that we provide is so needed, because I'm sure you remember 20 years, teachers will be obsolete and we'll all do it by computer and everything else. And now it's like, well, see, it can't be done on computer. You need that structure of a teacher to be like, look, you need to be on your work, because, and I don't want to say it exposes parents, but it kind of exposes them to the point where they have two income households. Some parents aren't there, and it's not because they don't want to be there. It's just because that's just the way of the world. Some people have two parents that have to work to be able to make things happen. So,
part of it is that we have them more hours of the day at home, or more awake hours of the day than families do at home. If you think about just the course of a 24-hour period, and so, we are building their structure, we are building their future, we are building, those patterns that are going to help them be successful. So I think even the kids have a new profound respect for teachers and educators because of the experience too. They want to come back.
Yeah, I've had a lot of students, high school students, be like, "Are we coming back?" I'm just like, I hope, And even my principal is like, every email he sends out, he always puts the dates for the fall. It's like optimistic, optimistic, optimistic.
Yeah.
So I had to do a 3-hour Zoom call yesterday with 30 other teachers on diversity. So that was fun. And I'm just like, we could be in school doing this. Like, why do we have to have the Zoom call? So, well, with that being said, and everything else, is there anything you want to, when it comes to getting through this, is there any words of wisdom or anything you want to share with educators, parents, people who might be scared about the school year this fall? Anything you want to share with them, like to ease their tension, to ease their, I mean, I know we're not the all be all, but is there anything we can offer them that might ease their tension when it comes to the fall?
Honestly, I think in general, there's just such mutual profound respect. I think that we respect families so much more. I think families respect educators so much more. Same thing with students. I only see hope. I see a blossoming. I see that our teachers have transformed themselves and grown light years in a very small amount of time. So I actually think that when we return in person, everything's going to be significantly better. The communication tools are better, student voice is better. Just really getting at the heart of what do we really need to teach, because we can't teach everything, because we have to be able to we have to be ready to pivot from home to school and vice versa, because it could be a completely different situation that arises not even related to the pandemic, and then we're back to doing school at home for a bit. So really, I think just looking to the future with hope, because I feel like as a society we are pretty much hitting rock bottom, but I think through that there are so many heroes that have arisen. There's been so many people step up and serve and do good and help and hope and communicate, that I do think that when we return, it's only going to be better than it ever was. And that's just my thought, my opinion, based on, interacting with other educators and, listening to students and families. But that's just been my underlying impression. This is tough. This has been growing pains. But what is going to emerge is going to be beautiful and better than it ever was before, because we went through it together. And we are humanity. We are humans together. Everybody matters.
Definitely. And that is at the end, looking at my time frame and everything else on the how I've given this, that is an excellent place that we can end today. I think that's a beautiful place where we can, let people sit on that and really soak that in. Again, Pushing Boundaries, Recovery Mode Podcast. Again, go to our website, pushboundconsulting.com. Hold on real quick. That's what, there we go. That's what we're talking about. So Recovery Mode, digital. We don't have a hardcover version as of yet. That might change in the future. We don't know. But definitely go to pushboundconsulting.com, download our ebook, talk about what, this is Rebecca Coda, Chapter 6 contributor. We have 16 chapters of 16 different people. You can go back and look at the other episodes that we've done and the future episodes that are coming up. Follow us on Pushbound EDU on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, everything all over the board. Rebecca, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here today. And enjoy your weather, enjoy your new surroundings, enjoy, what's to come for the summer. And then definitely, I know we'll be talking soon for the fall and other things that are going on. So, hold on. We have a wave. We're waving back. Hi.
Just on a serious note, I just truly value all the educators that are out there. It has just been phenomenal what everybody has contributed, yourself too.
Thank you.
It's really brought out the best in a lot of people, and it's very inspiring. So we appreciate everybody listening and everybody, doing their part to make reentry a very pleasant experience for our kids.
It's shown a lot of grit that everyone has, that, people are, being unique and taking the time to formulate, lesson plans and everything else that'll reach the kids at home. And
sure,
it's one of those things where, you're given a situation. It's like, okay, let's figure it out because no one knew the right answer. Of course, you're able to watch the replay. So yeah, Amber's asking about the replay. So if you want to know the replay, there is. I will post a YouTube link that goes to our YouTube channel, so you can subscribe there and watch all the shows. Watch this replay when I finish it up, and and catch all the stuff that's coming through already. So Rebecca, thank you so much. And
Thanks, Rob.
pushboundconsulting.com for recovery mode. What are you guys doing to push the boundaries of your classroom all the time? If it's in your schools or virtual at home, and remember, we're here for our students. That's what we're here for. That's what we do. So everyone be good. Thank you, Rebecca. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, guys.